Today, rather than a single presenter, we have a panel of three. Cudemus-Jones is here in the design building with both Denise Berger and Joanna Kripp joining us through Zoom. If I was to introduce and speak about each one of our panelists similarly to how I have in the past with single presenters, I'm afraid I'd use far too much of our allotted 75 minutes. Because their resumes and accomplishments within our industry are extraordinarily deep, and I emphasize extraordinarily. However, briefly, Cudemus-Jones is the Director for Design and Construction Management for UMass Amherst, with over 20 years of experience in complex construction projects. Prior to UMass, as pre-construction executive with Gilbane Building Company. Among multiple responsibilities, she served as Deputy Director of the $1.7 billion school reconstruction program. Ms. Cudemus-Jones holds both a degree in civil engineering and an MBA. She is certified Design Build Institute of American Associate, a 2016 American Arbitration Association Higginbotham Fellow, and was recognized by the Connecticut Association of General Contractors as the 2016 Project Manager of the Year. He currently serves on the Board of Directors of the Construction Institute and is actively involved with the Connecticut Professional Women in Construction. Denise Berger is a Fellow of the American Institute of Architects and Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of Northeast Region AECOM, Architecture, Engineering, Construction, Operation Management, for those of you who don't know. Prior to this position, Ms. Berger was Chief Operations of the Engineering Department of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, where she managed a team of more than 550 architects and engineers responsible for the planning, design, construction, and commissioning of $1.3 billion annually for critical transportation projects in the region. During her 30-year career at the Port Authority, Ms. Berger led many complex, large-scale capital projects, which included those related to the World Trade Center's massive wing. In 2016, Ms. Berger founded the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey's Women's Council to empower and advance women in leadership roles. Ms. Berger currently serves on the advisory board of the New York Institute of Technology School of Architecture and Design. Ms. Berger has received numerous awards. In 2019, was named the Greater New York Chapter Women's Transportation Seminar Woman of the Year. Finally, Joanna Kripp, last but not least, will be joining us a little later. Ms. Kripp is the Operation Manager for the New York City Business Unit of Gilbane. In this role, Ms. Kripp has led several high-profile construction projects in New England, including the recent $104 million North Reading Middle High School project that was recognized by Engineering News Records New England Award of Merit. With more than 38 years of experience in our industry, Ms. Kripp is a leader with a solid background in construction management, at-risk projects, public projects, and construction. Her decisive, tough-minded management approach, sound leadership skills, and genuine nature continuously motivate team members to achieve excellence while overcoming project and career challenges. Ms. Kripp is a contributor to Gilbane's Executive Exchange Program. Additionally, she serves a senior position on Gilbane's New England Advanced Program focused on development and advancement of women within Gilbane and the construction industry. So please welcome the two panelists that are present and the one that will be joining us shortly.
Hello, everybody, and thank you. This is the second time. Last time I was here all by myself, so I thought I'd bring my friends with me this time. So it's just great to see Denise. You should see the faces here. You have an amazing audience, a combination of young men and young women, and it's exciting to see because this is you guys are the future of our industry. You truly, truly are. When I hear what Carl was talking about and listening to the accomplishments, not only of mine, I was like, wow, have I done all of that? You know, and listening to Denise and Joanna, there are truly, truly amazing things you can do in our industry. You just want it. Is it for the faint of heart? No. Depends on what you want to do. There is a place for everyone. But happy to be here. Thank you, Alex, Carl, Kat, for bringing us back. I'm so very, very thankful Denise and Joanna agreed to join us. So sad they can't be here in person because I love those ladies. They really are intense and they're such amazing human beings. Anyway, let's just get going. Now you know that I'm a civil engineer. Now you know that Denise is an architect. So Joanna, who's going to be joining us too, she's also a civil engineer. But our past took us in different ways. Our past took us through construction management. It took us through, Denise with the UMass, with New York Port Authority. She can tell you all about her in a few minutes. So, continuing rise of women in construction. Hold on, there is, you said the big button.
Yeah.
You know who we are? So I'm not going to spend more time on that. So, obstacles, construction, what is it? What do you think about? You think it's a male-dominated industry, and it has been. And it will continue to be for a short while, because here we come. Obstacles become opportunities. I picked the three things because, I don't know if some of you are here in April next year, but there is an incredible conference that is going to take place on our campus, which is called the Women Who Build. It is actually for everyone who is interested. It's April 13th and 14th. Denise, you're going to be here? Just say yes. Say yes. And Joanna will be here too. But it is an amount. Last year we did not do this in person, but the year before we had close to 400 women and men. It wasn't just women. From an incredible amount of industries. A great opportunity for you guys to come in, network, meet people, listen. Because this is all about listening. It's all about learning from other people. Denise, you want to say something before I move on?
Sure. I just want to say I'm really happy to be here, although virtually. I would love to be there in person. I just had another meeting. I just couldn't get up to Massachusetts. But I'm based in New York, so I'm interested in our world, which is our industry, which is architecture, construction, and engineering. So very excited to be here, and I have lots to say.
And she does. We're not quiet women, as you're going to find out as we move forward. You guys are all familiar with this. This is what I was talking about, when obstacles become opportunities. Because all kinds, one of the biggest problems we have had for many, many years, and this goes back to when I graduated from college, is there's no equipment that fit us, or fit women. So these are opportunities. Think about that stuff. When you guys, go out into the world, somebody thought about this stuff. Boots that fit us, safety harnesses that fit us, hard hats that fit, gloves, think about those things when you're out there, even a vest. So, you guys are all familiar with this photo? It's very famous. So I found this one while I was ready for this. What's interesting about this photo? The ladies are expecting babies. So it kind of caught my eye because it was not only because there's several photos of this with women, but this one we're all expecting. And I thought, this is kind of cool. You can do everything. So that's why I thought I will share it with you. Denise, had you seen this one before?
No, not this one. It's amazing.
So I wanted to give you a quick stats of the state of the industry, because this is why we're here. Women make up 47% of the total employment in the United States. That's a pretty big percentage. But only 10.3 are in construction. But in the field, 1 out of 100. And the stats haven't changed much in the past, I'll say, 10 years. Denise, just shake your head. So what's happening? The construction industry is not benefiting. We are only employing at 1.125% of the women in the workforce. Not cool, not sound business. Women in engineering alone, 20% graduates are women. Out of 62%, 11% are practicing. 38% leave the career or never start. And we have in engineering the highest turnover of women leaving the skilled industry. And you wonder why. Why is this happening? So what keeps us out of the industry? And Denise, if you have to say something, just let me know. Unconscious gender bias, even among us women. What do we think of whenever we're thinking of the construction industry for us? You think of dirty, out in the field, construction boots, heavy, and even, but even when we work in the offices, we think the same way. Especially if you're in the construction side of things, like construction management. One of my 5 favorite ladies to see in the field are superintendents. And I think, Alex, you have had some of the superintendents here. I'm trying to remember the young lady that came to visit you, but I can't, right now I'm losing it. There is a lack of training for women who may want to work in the field. The pays are insane. What these people can make, male or females, for working in the field, the salaries are incredible. But few know. So, people don't go in the field. Gender discrimination in the workplace are 60% in our industry. That's pretty high. Women make 95.7 cents for every dollar a man makes, or 80 cents on average. So we tend to be underpaid. So that's another reason as to women say, maybe not. We have a lack of role models for our own young girls, young women that say you can do construction. I've been in middle schools, Denise has to, high schools, trying to recruit. We females tend to be a little afraid of the physics and the math and everything STEM related because we're so afraid of failure. And we tend, believe it or not, to be more perfectionists than some of you guys that are sitting here. So while you guys say, I can do this, and just run through it, sometimes with our eyes closed, we're very planners. Our brains are different. So we plan. And our fear of failure is higher sometimes. Especially if, like maybe Denise and I, when we graduated from college, I was only 1 out of 2 women in my senior class. So it's tough. It was tough coming through engineering. The overall perception, we talked about that. And we are at higher risk of injuries because of what we were discussing. Equipment that doesn't fit us. Gloves that are too big. Vests that come to our knees. Our bodies are different. So you want to go into a good business? Design PPE for women. All right? It's just a good business. What needs to happen? Women do not need to change. Our work environments need to change. The companies need to improve recruiting, but more important, retaining our women in the industry. We want to make a difference. That's why we stay in construction and engineering. That's why you guys, my male counterparts stay too. It's no different. We want to make a difference. If we feel that we're making a difference, then we stay on. everybody's, that's goal, job satisfaction. But face it, our society has made it a little harder for us sometimes because we're the ones that carry the baby, we're the ones that have the baby, we're the ones that feed the baby when the baby's small. And sometimes during that time, the job is either gone, and things are getting better, by the way, on that, but the job is either gone and it's been given to somebody else, or when we come back, it's not the same, because we have lost 6, 8, 10 months sometimes, depending on how long a woman wants to stay closer to her child. But what I've seen so far in some companies, especially large companies, and I'm going to let Denise, because I know her company institutes this, and I know Joanna's does too, is to have a parental leave policy that applies both to father and mother. You want to talk about it, Denise?
Well, yeah, sure, thank you. So when I was at Floor 30, we had a big parental leave policy. It's called you could work part-time or you could job share, and that really helped me during my career. For a very long time, I worked 4 days a week, 11 days a week, and it allowed me to still engage in my work and engage in growing professionally, but at the same time, it gave me the latitude to be with my children, which, it's hard to have to make choices. But my choice for me was I did want to spend more time with my children, especially when they were younger, when I was raising them. So I did work 3 to 4 days a week. And I have to say with Carolina, I said my career plateaued during that time, which means it didn't go up, it didn't go down, it just, was steady. But, for me, I felt that I wasn't getting those big raises, things like that. But for me, what was more important was spending time with my kids. And then when they got older, I had a great manager who said to me, why don't you just come back full time? And he allowed me to do that. And I still had the flexibility of my schedule. So it was good. I didn't feel like I lost any, sometimes when women stop working or even then they make a career change when you come back, you're not at the same level, let's say, of your peers. So by working part-time, it still allowed me to work on pretty dynamic projects. And at the same time, I felt, for me, I was overwhelmed with raising my kids, and I really wanted to be there. So, I think it's important to pick the right company that you want to work for. To look at when you're going out to work, right, look at the company and see what it has to offer, because some companies are more flexible than others.
So that is critical. And it doesn't just apply to us women, it applies to you guys too. Because let's say you want to stay home with your child. You look for that type of flexibility in the company that you're applying to, because it's out there. Joanna is not on, but when I first came, and this was, we're only, what is it? We're right out of school, right? 20 plus years ago, when I joined Gilbane for the first time, Joanna had small children, and what Denise is talking about is real. They were job sharing. There was 2 women sharing the same job. So in the construction trailer. So when she left, there was another lady that came in after her. So they rotated the job, but they were performing one, which was with the flexibility of being able to leave. So it worked, and I thought, holy cow, this company is really, forward thinkers, because this was 20 plus years ago. Now that's more common. So look for people that can accommodate you, because the most important thing is you. One thing about work-life balance, I keep on hearing that over and over and over again. That's subjective. Okay, what works for me doesn't work for you. And what works for Alex doesn't work for me. So work-life balance is subjective. It's whatever you make it to be. If you're a runner, your work-life balance depends on you going for your run every morning or evening or whatever it is that you do. So it's looking for those things that keep you healthy mentally and physically, and at the same time provide you the satisfaction of your job. Because we all supposedly like what we do and take pride in what we do. So think about those things also when you're interviewing. How's the industry changing? Higher advocacy of women in STEM. We have a bunch of women organizations on the rise everywhere. Women in construction, women construction owners and executives. PwC, which I think Kath is getting some folks to come and visit and maybe, set up a chapter. Actually, a couple of you. And they have an incredible scholarship, guys and ladies. It applies to both, even though it's a professional women in construction scholarship, is blind to gender. So you can apply for this, and it's very generous. So keep your eyes out for those scholarships because they're nice, and they're for 2 years. And it applies to anyone in construction-related education. So look for it, whether you're an undergrad or a grad, look for it. Go into your professional women in construction. There's a chapter in Massachusetts. There's a chapter in Connecticut. There is 2 people from BCT who won the Connecticut scholarship. So it doesn't matter where you apply, just apply. Because it's a good association. Go ahead.
I'm on the national board for PwC in the New York chapter.
There you go. Now you have contacts in high places. Large construction companies collaborate with the communities that they work in. There's formal mentorship opportunities, apprenticeship programs for people who want to go into the trades, and also, like we just said, scholarships. But if you don't apply, they don't come to you. And some of these are like $5,000 to go for. How is the industry changing? Again, flexibility, parental leave policies, shared work policies, child care opportunities, and by all means, clear career ladders. Another question for you guys to ask when you interview. What are my growth opportunities? Because you're going to come in at an entry level, and you want to make sure that you have a path of progression as you learn. Some people don't want to be managers. That's fine. But where's your path? When you work in a large company, there's always two trends. You go into the management side, executive side, or you go on the field side. I'm talking about large construction firms. I can't speak for Denise. But, find out. What is your opportunities for growth, learning, challenging? Find something that you like about the stuff that you're learning. See if you're passionate about something, whether it's sustainability, whether it's dirt. I used to love dirt and concrete, find something that you like. And then, try to see how that company will fit into the things that you like about what you're learning. Because if you work on that, you're going to do much better. Anything to say, Denise?
No, I agree with everything you said. Well, I think that when you talk about the career ladders, I think one of the first things I would suggest when you get out of school is to try to get your license. A lot of times people get distracted with life, and I've seen many people who work for me that didn't go for the license and they tried years later, and it's much harder. So if you take the test that you need to do, please get those credentials, whether it's a engineering license, or AIA, or PMP, I think, or the certification for construction. I think it's really important to do that. I always put a 5-year plan together. When I was in school, for me, the AIA architecture degree is 5 years, so I always looked at 5-year increments. And when I came out of school, tried to get as much experience as possible. At the same time, going for my license, it was hard because we worked a lot of overtime. try to just make sure I work for the right firm. When I mean right firm, I mean a firm that is really going to help me, support me, because filling out the application for the license is also, difficult, especially when you're side. So making sure you get the support that you can get that done, because it may not seem important to you now. I mean, it's really important like 10 years from now to have that, those initials down with your name, something you cannot think about. So I would just want to add that.
We're talking a lot. Anybody any questions so far? Come on, don't be shy. We really don't bite. Anyway, why are we so important? Why are women becoming so important? Diverse companies, 25% more have to achieve above average profitability. Wall Street is taking notice. 2022 for the construction industry is looking like a year of growth. So how about hiring more women to fulfill some of those empty spots in aiding in the expansion of the company and profitability? McKinsey, you guys know McKinsey? Some of you? If you don't, go look them up. They really are an incredible thing to find out about aiding. Construction companies with more women in executive line roles have above average financial performance. It's good to have diversity in the executive line roles. 30% of executive level positions are women. And the companies that had them have close to a 50% likelihood of outperforming their competition. So, something says that the diversity in management, in thinking, benefits the companies as a whole. I wanted to do this, and if they would have been with us in person, it would have been an interview. I wanted to interview them because they're so fascinating, all of them. So I put together like a bunch of questions for them. Is it okay if I start asking you ladies?
Go right ahead.
All right, Joanna, since you just walked in, and Denise and I have really know who's here, we're gonna start with you. So, we all know what you've done with your life. You all know what you currently do. But it's kind of interesting, what would be your current goals for yourself, for your company direction, or how do you set goals for your employees?
Well, we have a strategic planning process, and we just did our strategic planning process with a vision to 2025, so we look 5 to 10 years out. So my company goals are, surrounded around diversity and inclusion, people development, business increasing profitability. So for me, in my role as operations manager is to support the organization and processes, whether it's how you reduce schedule values, how you use your TMP, so that we have, support on flawless execution, so that we can achieve our strategic goals. So then when we look at our employees, we're asking them, we're just starting what we're calling our performance management process right now. We used to call it employee review. But now we're doing it, taking a little bit different approach and calling it performance management. How do employees manage their performance, and how do we help projects manage performance? So the part we're looking at our employees, to say, look at our strategic plan. Can you align your goals, your personal goals, to the strategic plan? How would you develop under flawless execution? Would you, be more proactive in reviewing schedule values and reach out to the subcontractors so you can understand what the cash flow is? So kind of tie your personal goals, performance management goals, into strategic goals, which then will all drive the business. My personal goals, I tie them into that same, what's the bigger vision. My goals, I think, have changed from, I think when I started, back in clean your desktop, you know, make sure that you, and I think a lot of your goals enter into, you know, get through all your inbox, productivity goals. I mean, my goals now are much more strategic and much more about helping others meet their personal goals and the company and the meet our strategic goals. So I think there's an evolution of my goals, and also the way we review performance has changed into a performance management of the grow employees, as opposed to a review of their performance and, you know, areas for improvement.
Thank you. Let me turn you off. Otherwise, we're gonna echo around here. Joanna is mentioning a lot of things. I don't know if you picked up two things. Performance reviews, that means you're talking to your employees when you're at that level. That's something you gotta do. But she also has financials in the background. So as you move in your careers, as you said, what Joanna was saying, goals, always keep your ears and eyes open about what the person next door to you is doing. Especially if he's at a higher level, has more years of experience than you do. Most of everything you're gonna learn it by doing from somebody else. And that's what's gonna help you, and you're gonna find that niche that you're going to like. Denise, do you wanna say something about current goals for yourself, company, direction?
Sure, so, can you hear me okay? So for me, it's a little different from what Joanna does. In regards to looking at growth, strategy, and innovation. So she looks at the operation side, so, you know, it's quite interesting. When you come to one of the big firms that we work for, it's usually operations where there's growth and strategy. But you need to understand both, right, to have alignment. So it's really important to get that operational experience and the growth experience when you get out of school. For me, I look at the campaigns some of the campaigns that the AECOM is working on right now is geared to equity. We call it ESG, so it's environment, social equity, and governance. And you probably understand that. So I'll give you an example of that. Many of you, and ask the question, so how many of you have ridden over the George Washington Bridge onto the Cross Bronx Expressway? Show of hands. Many? Not so many. I know it's New York, but so when you take that, and another example is what was done with the Big Dig in Boston, right? Before that, we had communities that were separated, right? Because people wanted to put surface transportation road right through a community, and it broke the community up. So now there's a new infrastructure bill that was just, hopefully will be passed soon. It just got passed by the House, $1.2 trillion. They're looking at projects that concentrate in certain areas to make an improvement and bring connections back to communities. So my company is looking at that campaign. We're also looking at a campaign called Digital Innovation. Now, Joanna and I are on this, the computer, right? And I would say the construction industry probably lagged, if you think about the different sectors, like behind a lot of other sectors in this industry. And maybe now, because of COVID, we're kind of light years ahead of where we were, but we're still a little far behind. So one of the things I'm also looking at is digital transformation. Not just for how we move forward with, but also how we look at new services. How do we help our clients to look at transformation from taking something they were doing in 2D, looking at building information modeling, looking at capital planning, just using digital technology to move forward. We're also looking at eVTOL, flying, let's say like Jetsons, flying planes. So there's so much new technology and innovation out there, high-speed rail, the Hyperloop that's out there. So it's quite interesting. So I look at those campaigns. I'm also, and how, and I'm looking at growth. So one of the areas also, I look at the whole East region from Maine to Latin America. So if I look at that whole space, and I look at key cities like Boston and New York and Atlanta, where is there that we could get new services, new business alignment into those areas? In addition, how do we communicate it? Because I have marketing and branding all under me, not just also writing a proposal, but how do we communicate some of the great work that we're doing? So for FY22, that's what we call it, FY22 for AECOM starts now in October. How do we look at some of these ideas, and then how do I communicate to my staff, right? To say, okay, this is what we're going to do. And a lot of companies, and even at the Port Authority, we're a matrix organization. Although I have people working with me, we're a global company. I have people in Australia, people, in the UK and Hong Kong. How are we all in alignment? And a lot of it's working collaboratively and communicating and networking. So those are three basic things that students should be doing. They should be networking, they should be collaborating, and they should be communicating. I think when you look at rising up, moving up in an organization, you need to have those three. A lot of people like to stay in their silos and they like to do the analytics. That's great if you want, and it's good to be that technical lead, but it's really important to communicate that, especially when you have, whether you go on public side or private side, meaning private working for your municipality, or an agency. It's important to be able to communicate your vision to a client or communicate your vision to someone who's working for you or even up to your boss. So I think those technical skills are great, but make sure you have the soft skills too.
Thank you, Denise. Denise, again, she's global, so she has to deal with many countries. She's her title is 2B for me. She's strategy and innovation of the East region, but that also includes South America. So now take a look. I mean, one of the other things that Denise mentioned is communication. The best class you can take is public speaking. Presentation skills. One of the best classes that you can take if you get a chance. Honest to God, I was not a great presenter. I learned through the years. But that kind of puts you out of the group. Okay? It's not easy to get in front of a bunch of people you don't know, but it is a much needed skill. Because you have to talk to your own boss at some point. If you have an idea, might as well present it right. So if I had to give you a piece of advice, if you find it across, go for it. Try it as an elective. I have a question for these ladies, just because I'm curious, and this is my opportunity to find out about them. So Joanna, this is just for me. What is the most dangerous behavior that you have seen derail female careers?
I think it's not speaking up. It's like if you don't speak up, if you don't have a voice, then you get pushed to the back of the room. So that I don't think it's about leaning in. I think it's just about speaking up. It's about having confidence in your voice and asking questions. It's when you don't speak up and you don't come to the table, whether you're just starting out or whether you're in a room with your peers. It's, they'll see you in the room, but if they don't hear you in the room, that becomes important, that they hear you in the room and that they hear your voice. And I think that's one of the things. Somebody who just doesn't say anything, even though they're the smartest person in the world and their voice isn't heard, then I think that can derail you very quickly. You're seen as somebody who's in the back of the room, and it's not in their own room.
So one of the things that I second Joanna, the perception applies to both genders. Okay, so if you're sitting in the back of the room and you don't know something, it's better that you kind of raise your hand and say, sorry, can you explain a little more? Or if you do know something, speak up. it's and showing enthusiasm, or, we tend to be very, very shy when we're starting out. And believe me, people are dying to teach you. They're trying to mentor you, they're trying to guide you, but we don't know what you don't know. So if we're talking about elevators or whatever, and you don't know, and you don't, after the meeting, go to the person who was running the meeting and say, hey, can you tell me more? We don't know that you don't know it. So it's just easy to make assumptions. Denise, what do you think? It is the most dangerous behavior that can derail careers.
Well, derail careers, I think you need to be an advocate for yourself, because nobody's an advocate for you. So I do think that you have to be enthusiastic. A lot of times you're under pressure to get something out. I know a couple of times that when I was working in the past and I passed my former job, and I asked to get some stuff done, and some of the younger folks would say, well, I have plans, I can't work. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, that, and make a mental note of that. I mean, I understand if, a funeral or a wedding, something like that, but not every weekend or, every night you have to go out to dinner, There has to make your job your priority, especially early on in your career. I think it's important. I'm not sure if people realize the importance of that. I think it's also important when you're working for someone to ask, what else can I do to help you? I think it goes a long way. Sometimes you might not be early on in your career invited to all the meetings, and you have to be a little patient. And you should, speak to your boss, your supervisor, to tell them, let them know that you're interested in learning more. Nobody's going to say, no, I don't want to give you more work. There's lots of work out there. And if, as Joanna said, if you're enthusiastic about it and show your motivation, they'll be more than happy. And if you are at a meeting, and sometimes, early on in your career, if you're invited to a meeting and you may not know anything, it's okay not to say anything, but maybe you want to say something after the meeting to the person presenting, to say, hey, could you provide more information, or just let them know that you're interested in the subject matter. I think that goes a long way. But if you're not showing that motivation or interest, that's will definitely derail your career. If you're not available and flexible and adaptable, sometimes you work on one project, you want to pick on something else, just go with it. The way I felt, the more experience I got, the more different project types that I was given, and it was better for me. I just always saw things as a learning experience.
Totally agree. So the rising women in construction is turning on into career advice, but that comes with the territory. All three of us are huge advocates of women, but we're also advocates of people, young people in the industry. So don't, I told somebody after 2 years ago when I was here, I says, how can I get to know people? Join LinkedIn. You know me now, right? Find me on LinkedIn. I have some of you who hit me on LinkedIn. There's my, you can see who my contacts are. Set up your profiles. All right, as you move into the industry, you will update. But you find like-minded people when you are with like-minded people. Let's say your passion is sustainability. You're gonna find them there. So start getting yourself, and I don't know, how many juniors do we have? All right, how many seniors do we have? About the same. How about freshmen? Sophomores? All right. So we have a pretty good combination here, ladies, all right? So every time you meet someone like me, Joanna, Denise, the people that Alex and Kath and Carl bring to meet you, you're networking. That's a possible job offer. Always look at it that way. Ask questions. I want to join you for dinner. Come find me. Go ahead.
I would also suggest, and this is advice I give to my children, I have a son who's 28 and a daughter who's 24, but especially when they were in college, that you guys are, it's important to get those internships. It's really important to do that because when they're gonna be, when companies like, if they'll be hiring, they wanna know your technical experience and they're gonna wanna know where you work, for, over the summer. So I know some people don't like to work over the summer, they have their own personal interests, but if you want to differentiate yourself and get a job with one of those, the high, the big organizations, I would suggest internships, and it's really important. And we could talk about that maybe another day if you want to do that. I'm not sure about that, Caroline, how you would handle that, but right now we just did usually the internships for the summer come out in December, which is very close, so you should start putting your resume together and make sure you have references that you can go to. And even sometimes it's hard as a freshman or a sophomore to get that, so maybe you don't go for the big name firm, you go to a smaller firm, something in the type of industry, the AEC industry, and they're looking for folks, so please, I would recommend to do that.
It's just the timing of it. We just, today we probably interviewed 10 candidates for internships for the summer. So if you're thinking, I'll start looking for my internship in April, the internships have been long gone. And we're starting to put offers out right now for internships for the summer. So I think you should be looking at that in October, in the fall, November.
And for seniors, we just made a whole bunch of hires, we're hiring now for May, and June.
Yeah, we're on the same time frame. We're doing the same.
Well, there you go. Now you know where to go and find your resumes. Last couple of years ago, a couple of your peers, came to me and said, would you mind taking a look at my resume? Not at all. Go UMass, let's go find you guys some jobs that, you'd be happy with. Go ahead.
That's a quick question. I think there's statistics out there that say that, and this might not apply to the first resume or for the first job that people are after, but that women, I think, often only apply if they feel like they're 100% qualified for the job, whereas men apply if they are okay that they're 60%. I think that was kind of the numbers that were out there. Can you comment on that, or maybe some advice?
You guys know what he's talking about, right? So go ahead, Joanna. You and I have had tremendous conversations on this.
We've had conversations where you have, in the office currently, you have two individuals doing the exact same job. You have a woman engineer in one office, and you have a male engineer in the other office. And the woman engineer will sit there and do her job diligently and submit the perfect change order and wait for the project manager to come in and say, you're doing a great job, I'm going to promote you. And they need to be 100% sure what they're doing. And her male counterpart doing the exact same job in the office next door will, okay, I've done one change order, I'm ready for the next thing. I'm ready, he'll keep coming in and out of his office and looking for other opportunities out in the field. Looking at the project manager and say, I'm ready for the next thing. Because when their level of confidence that when they're 60% is, they're going out and looking and asking for the opportunity where, and typically, I don't know why I said typically, but, the female will sit there and wait for somebody to come in and say, okay, I'm sitting here for 3 years, I'm ready for the next thing. Also, you need to look at, the project manager or your boss is saying, Joanna's really good at doing change orders, I never wanted to stop doing change orders. Because if she doesn't stop doing change orders, then I'm going to have to find something else. Which also goes to the fact that you should actually always be looking for training places so that you can I think that's part of the things we need to do. But it is a real thing if you're talking about resumes, but it's also in the workplace. And women tend to say, I need to be 100% sure, and men with the same path say, I get a good 75%
Denise?
Yeah, I would say I agree with Joanna. I also think it goes back to women don't like to take risks. I've seen it personally when I had a position working directly with me, one of my direct reports. I remember I was in an elevator, and people knew I was looking for a high level person, and I had lots of men come up to me and tell me how they knew I had a position that was open, and they were going to be interviewing, and I, made a mental note, and I knew what they were doing, and I was like, I don't think this person's the right person. It was interesting how much confidence they had and thought that they would be the right fit. And I remember being in the elevator and I saw someone I had worked with a couple of years before, and I said, it was a she. I said to her, "Oh, well, you're applying for the position." And she said, "Well, I wasn't even thinking about it. I don't really think I have the qualifications." So it's interesting how her perception is she didn't have the qualifications. And then she said, "Oh, well, what do you think?" And I said, "I would be asking you if you were interested in applying if I didn't think you had the qualifications." A lot of it's just thinking about it differently. This is for a program management position. And she felt, well, she wasn't doing program management for a really long time, but she was in design. She was in the design side doing program management. I'm like, you have to think about it differently. And when you come to the interview, bring stuff, show me what you did. Think about it as a program manager. I didn't say that if you read the description, it was written in such a way to think out of the box in terms of the person that would be hired. And I think a lot of times women think they have to have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, and they don't want to, I think, take that risk, maybe because they don't feel confident enough. I think a lot of it's confidence. Confidence and advocate for yourself. Because nobody, like I said, nobody else is going to do it for you, and then you're going to see all these people just go right by you, and you're just probably smart. So, and I see it, gender, I really do, but sometimes even men don't have that confidence, and I think, I also think if you're really interested in something, right, take a chance. Why not?
I would agree totally. What's the worst thing that can happen to you? If somebody says, "Oh no, you're not ready, but if you do X, Y, Z, you'll be ready." And then now all of a sudden you have a direction. One of the best, and this happened, it was University of New Haven. There was a young man who applied for an internship, and I happened to be the one that was recruiting. Joanna knows this young man. So anyway, he came, and there was two very, very strong candidates. It was a lady and him. Well, Rania ended up with a job. Why? Because her face lit up every time she would speak. That was the only difference. Ado, who Joanna knows, was more quiet, more subdued. So, but this is what happened. So Rania gets a job. She moves on and gets hired. She does her internship. She graduates. She gets hired. She starts moving up. She found her niche. Ado, during the time of the internships, when he did not get the job, the first thing he said, he sent me an email. He says, "Hey, Carolina, thank you for the interview. Could you tell me what I missed? Could you tell me why wasn't I picked?" Immediately, what did I do? Go found him another internship. So I looked in everywhere that I knew, that I was working with, and at that time with construction managers, and I found him an internship. And that construction manager happened to be using the same, process systems we work. So what happens? I'm in the same recruiting line, University of New Haven. He comes back. He goes, "Hey, now I'm a senior. Now I'm looking for a real job." So I said to him, "Let me see your resume. Now you have experience." He had everything in line so that he could go truly apply. Well, where is Ado right now? Joanna, where is Ado right now?
Otto is in New England, and actually just moved down to DC. He just moved down to DC. He is head of our ESP board, so he's actually taken a leadership role nationally for Gilbane across the company. And he moved back down to DC and he's working more on.
Yeah, he was from Maryland, and he wanted to be in Massachusetts. So who did he end up with? Joanna, the toughest senior project executive you had. This woman is by the book, she knows her stuff, she's tough, but you learn from her. So I am so proud of that young man. But hey, he took it. He didn't take no for an answer. He followed through. He said, what happened? Why didn't I get the job? And you should do that. Find out. Because somebody's going to tell you because of 1, 2, 3, and then you can realign. Maybe your resume is weak or something is missing.
I would also suggest, this is Denise, I would also suggest that, especially now that the interviews are virtually, some of them, right? I would go on as many interviews as you can to get selected towards, but it's always good to get that experience, so that when you go after the job that you really want, let's say you had all the practice, it's really important to practice your technique and your skills. The other thing I think is also good, people get to know who you are when you're interviewed by the network, so maybe you don't get this job, but they may remember you for something else.
Just go. Go. The world is yours, my mother used to say. And at your age, the world is yours. I gotta ask some more hard questions, and I don't know how we're doing on time.
15 minutes.
We got 15? I'm gonna ask one more question, and then I'm gonna tell you not to be shy. We have given you enough. Don't be shy, So are you to ask us questions? Because you have an incredible group of ladies here, and I'd be happy to answer anything you have as well. So, let me think. I have a list of hard questions here. I'm trying to figure one out. What has been the most significant barrier in your career, Joanna? Barrier.
That's a tough question because sometimes I don't see barriers sometimes, and I'll just like plow through. And so, I don't see it as a barrier, I see it as a challenge, I see it as something to push through and overcome. I think one of the differences is, that I started here in I started my career in Gilbane in 1982. I was one of 5 women in the entire country. I think there were 4 of them in New England. So I think if I look backwards, maybe it was just being, the female in the construction site and the unknown entity. So that it was, you need to work harder or you need to be enthusiastic. Let me take on that. So with that. But then as your career moves forward, your barriers, I think, become a little bit different. And again, I think it's more of a challenge. For me, recently, it was, did I want to, move to New York City after having my entire career in Boston and building around Boston? I was given an opportunity at 60 years old to, move to New York City and do something different. Being open to that allowed me to, come to New York City, start a career in New York City, and become an operations manager in New York City, which is our largest business unit in the country. So, I think the barrier would have been, I could have just stayed at home, and my husband's at home, my kids are at home, my son just started having grandchildren. So was it a barrier that I could have imposed on myself and say, hey, I can't do this. Instead, I was just like, no, let's go. Let's take on the challenge. And I have never looked back. And I can't imagine not being in New York City. And New York City is a place where people, grow up building, and you're a New York City builder, and you're high-rise. The other day, I was at 50 Hudson Yards, and I was on the hoist on the outside of the building, which is basically an elevator on the outside of the building, got to the platform, and I looked out and I saw the Chrysler building, and I saw the Empire State Building, and I turned to the superintendent, was there, and I went, this just never gets old. So being, enthusiastic, even, when you're now at 63, for what you do every day. So I don't think I'm looking at it as barriers anymore, I'm looking at it as challenges. And Denise, I think you also said it before, take a risk. And don't be afraid to fail. And then the barriers just start to fall away when that happens. And then you'll find out if something is a true barrier that you can't knock down, and then you can ask for help. But a lot of the time, I think it's self-imposed.
Denise, do you have something to add?
No, I mean, I totally agree with Joanna. I think a lot of, if I look at my career, I would say I didn't really any barriers, and I think being a woman actually helped me because there wasn't many of us, so it gave that attention to me, whether I liked it or not, and I just strive to do better because I felt like I had to keep up with my colleagues. So if you want to say barriers, I mean, some of the decisions that were made, sometimes there were decisions made in the bedroom. I would come back and I would sit at my desk and they said, I was ready for a presentation, whatever. And I was like really looking forward to having this discussion. I was invited to the room, let's say the conference room. I'm like, we made a decision already, and I missed the meeting. And like, no, we discussed it in the men's room. So, I mean, I don't know if that was really a barrier. But I sort of think it's opportunities, and even through college, they would say, when I was in the architecture school, they would say, look to your left, look to your right, these people will be here, next semester, or the end of the semester. And that would be more of a challenge to me to do better. So I always saw challenges, and I always saw challenges with opportunities. I mean, it was hard, going into chief of operations or even working in an engineering department, being an architect, and then managing 500 engineers. That was tough. I mean, I couldn't be the chief engineer, even though, because I was an engineer. So I don't know if that was a barrier, that was self-imposed, right, on myself, because I became an architect and an engineer, which is fine. But I think, the one thing I do want to say is that for me, I always had, I call it my board, and that's my network of folks that I would go to, like early in my career with my parents, my husband, and I call that like my invisible board of people that I would say, okay, do I want to take this next step? And that changes through life, right? You meet different people, you have a network, you have your friends, and I would just say to, when you're kind of like concerned about taking another step, taking a different step that you feel might be a barrier, go back and you go to your board and ask them, their thoughts. I think that's helpful. I think the one time that I had a crossroad, I would say, was after 9/11. I was in the towers of 9/11. And after that, I was asked to work for the chief engineer. And at the time, I just wanted to sit in a hole and really not come back to work and not work, in the city. And he gave me an opportunity to work for him, and that was more of a crossroad. Did I want to take that and go with that, or do I just want to stay, even home and hide in the hole? And I had to make a decision for myself, and I had to think about that really hard and thought, I think I can do this. He was a good person to work for, and that really working for him and working on some of the projects to do the reconstruction of Ground Zero really put my career, my career seriously. But that was a chance, and that was something, like Joanna said, that was self-imposed on myself, that I didn't have to go in that direction if I didn't want to.
That's cool, isn't it? When I was at a presentation that Denise made 2 years ago, or was it 3 years ago, I can't remember Denise, where she was talking about her experience with Ground Zero and the 9/11, and it's pretty telling, because somebody else may not have continued. She was too close to the reality of the horror that New York went through. So talking about challenges, you know, I always, you know, my hat tilts whenever I meet women like Joanna and Denise, and I get to meet a lot of them, so don't miss them next year when they're here, because they will be here hopefully. I'm gonna open the floor. Please don't be shy. Ask me, ask Denise, ask Joanna. You know, we're here to listen to you too. Know anybody? Otherwise, we continue talking. Go ahead.
So I've got a question. I almost kind of want to challenge you. You're three incredibly powerful women. So you've actually got not just a role to give advice, which you've been doing a lot of great advice, but also possibly to make changes in your organizations. So you've given advice about projecting confidence, developing soft skills, being available at all hours, or, you know, demonstrating that you consider the job to be number one. We're also at a time of very, very high quits rate, where people are evaluating whether they like the career they're in, right? And the other thing is you've described these characteristics that you described to women of being detail-oriented, perfectionist. These are great qualities, right? Mistakes cost money. So how could you in your organizations make it possible for somebody who has all of those qualities but may not be overconfident, may not project a lot of confidence, to actually succeed without having to develop those personality traits?
Did you guys hear him?
No.
How do you get somebody who's quiet and less confident pull forward? I actually just pulled something out, this leadership style. And I think that some of the things that I talked about, I had a young woman who worked for me who was a project manager. And I said to her, you know, what people don't understand is, you know, not all leaders are generals. Not all leaders are have. Your leadership style can be something that's different. Your leadership style can be collaborative. Your leadership style can be kind of style. But she was, Cindy was a very quiet leader, and really used people around her to get her point out. And there wasn't until you looked at the success of her project, her job, that you actually saw what her leadership style was. But if you were on a Zoom call, and I think this is where, you know, things come out, people get that first impression. If you were on a Zoom call with Cindy, you know, you would say she's sitting there and she's being very quiet, but in the end, on the other side, she would be like texting me saying, "You guys are a bunch of idiots, why don't they see what we should do?" So I think that, you know, you have to understand that you have different leadership styles, and that not everybody needs to lead like that role. Some people can lead as a coach, some people can lead as an influencer. So there are a lot of different leadership styles, and I think that's something that you should look at. What do you think your leadership style is going to be? What is your leadership style? Not all of us are going to be generals in the Army, and quite honestly, the workplace is changing where the more collaborative coaching leadership style, the ones that come naturally from that, in our company. So I think you can look at the leadership opportunity and start talking about understanding leadership style might fit in possibly as opposed to changing yourself.
Denise?
Yeah, I think that, you know, when you come out of school, you might have a different leadership style than you do, let's say, 5 years and 10 years after that. I think the important thing to do is build relationships, build and earn respect for the people that you work with and the people that you work for. Because a lot of it, you know, when you come out and start working, you're going to be working for someone, right? And you have to sometimes pivot the way you handle yourself, your demeanor, your boss. And every boss is different. So you have to, and that's hard, right? We never had to do that before. You have to figure out what you want, what she wants, how she wants it, you know. So that's a lot just there. And then you're working in a team usually, others, so you want to earn respect. I think it's really important to do that and develop a relationship. And then when you start to become a manager, you want to support your staff. Because if you, and what I'm saying with that is why it's important, because if you support your staff and you earn respect, you're a leader. That's leading, right? So it's leading by example. Lead the way you would want to be led. And people will see that. So, and if, I don't think you need to be loud and boisterous. You know, I think you just have to advocate for yourself and advocate for the employees who work for you, or who you work for you.
So you mentioned, what do we do? All of us are mentors. All of us have mentored many women at the same time, sometimes one, two, depending on who wants to be mentored. Because sometimes the individual does not need a mentor. Whether it's a young man who's starting or a woman that is trying to make decisions in the middle of their careers. I reach out to Joanna, Denise, those are my mentors. But there's times where I become the mentor at this level. So, but I don't know if we answered your question, but mentoring is huge. And don't be shy, don't be afraid to say to somebody, hey, can we have a cup of coffee? I'd love to talk to you about X, Y, Z. I have had ladies here at UMass that have asked me, you know, and they're not associated with design and construction, they just met me out there somewhere because we just finished the building. And they just want to know something on how to get ahead in their careers. Just find that person that you think can help you or that you like. I heard something really cool or read it or maybe YouTube it, who knows where I heard it. So you're in a party. Look at the room. How can you tell who the CEO is? He's the quieter one. He doesn't have to boast. He doesn't have to speak loud. He doesn't have to yell over everybody. And he's the one that people are coming to. So find that person that you can relate to. And I think you'll find a mentor. It could be a professor. It could be anyone, really, truly. Did we answer your question? Anybody else, or are we done?
I think we have to call it a day right now. Before you leave,